Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're not just looking at some minor villain. We are peeling back the layers on the definitive architect of Orcish ruin.
Mhm.
This is the story of Gul'dan, the master manipulator whose ambition, well, it wasn't just destructive, it was foundational. Foundational to the biggest tragedies in the history of two whole worlds.
Absolutely. He didn't just stumble into this.
No, he orchestrated it, step by insidious, self-serving step, made sure the orcs abandoned their sacred heritage on Draenor, turned them into, the horde, the force that nearly tore Azeroth apart.
Exactly. And when you trace that line of corruption, all the big betrayals, the wars that spilled across dimensions, they all lead back to him, to the greed of this one single individual.
It's incredible, really.
Gul'dan is like the ultimate cautionary tale. How that hunger for personal power can just completely dismantle a society, corrupt its core traditions, and doom generations.
So our mission today is to trace that whole story, chronologically, from his earliest days as this disgraced apprentice, right up to the moment he reached too far, his final, desperate end.
Yeah, we're hitting every dark bargain, every political betrayal that defined him. So you can really grasp the sheer scale of his influence.
Okay, so where do we start? We have to set the scene right. Draenor, before everything went green.
Exactly. Draenor, the Orcs' homeworld, long before the fell corruption. And at this time, the Burning Legion, specifically Kil'jaeden in this sector,
Yeah.
they were focused on the Draenei,
Right, wiping them out.
wiping them out. But the Draenei's were tricky,
Yeah.
elusive, well-prepared. They kept escaping the Legion's, usual brute force tactics.
Smashing things wasn't working.
Wasn't working.
Yeah.
So Kil'jaeden realized, okay, need a different approach, a more subtle plan, strategic,
And that's where the orcs come in, not as enemies, but as tools.
the perfect, unsuspecting weapon.
Mm.
That's what's so horrifying. He looked at the native orcs, honorable, clan-focused, deeply spiritual, and saw potential.
Potential to be twisted.
Exactly. To weaponize them, he had to undermine the very foundation of their society, their connection to the ancestors, their shamanism.
So how did he do that? You can't just walk up to an orc clan and say, hey, serve the Legion.
No. It was psychological warfare. Masterful, really. He targeted the most revered shaman at the time, Ner'zhul, respected leader, the main conduit to the spirits.
Okay.
Kil'jaeden knew he couldn't appear as, a giant red demon. Not yet. He had to appeal to Ner'zhul's deepest devotion, his faith.
So a vision.
A vision of Ner'zhul's deceased mate, Rolkan.
Oh, that's low.
Deeply manipulative. And this wasn't just a friendly ghost saying hello. Rolkan delivered a warning, a false warning,
Saying what?
that the Draenei, their peaceful neighbors, were secretly plotting against the Orcs,
Yeah.
planning their destruction.
And for the orcs hearing that from an ancestor, that's basically gospel, isn't it?
Absolutely. They revered their ancestors above all else, saw them as infallible. So when Ner'zhul, their most trusted shaman, delivered this message, the clans bought it. Implicitly, they believed the Draenei were suddenly this mortal threat. And that's when they launched the first aggressive acts against them, against people they had lived alongside peacefully for ages.
So the lie worked, but you said lies have an expiration date. Ner'zhul's wasn't inherently evil. Right?
No, not at all. He was a shaman of true intent, genuinely trying to protect his people. And eventually, the inconsistencies, the sheer scale of the aggression, it started to weigh on him.
He started having doubts.
Deep doubts. He realized something was fundamentally wrong with this. This glorious patron who was guiding him. The spear didn't feel right anymore.
And the moment of truth, when he found out who he was really talking to.
Yeah, that's a fascinating moment. Kil'jaeden finally revealed his true form. This huge, imposing Eridar demon.
Terrifying, I imagine.
Terrifying, yes, but also the irony. Ner'zhul saw this demon look disturbingly similar to, well, a heavily altered Draenei.
Oh, right, because Kil'jaeden is an Eridar, like Velen and Archimonde, the same race as the Draenei originally.
Exactly. That initial sense of misplaced joy, of being chosen, it just evaporated, replaced by cold, visceral fear. He realized he'd been played, a puppet, leading his entire race down this dark, dishonorable path.
What could he even do at that point?
He was desperate. He rode out one night to the most sacred place for the Orcs, Oshu'gun, the Mountain of Spirits.
Diamond Mountain, right?
Yeah, you have to understand, Oshu'gun wasn't just a mountain. It was, unbeknownst to the Orcs, actually the crashed dimensional ship of a Naru, a being of light. That's why it was such a beacon for ancestral spirits.
So he went there for guidance, to confess, to ask for help.
All of the above. He hoped to communicate with the ancestors one last time, find some way back, maybe get absolution.
Did they answer?
No. That's the crushing part. The moment of Ner'zhul's absolute failure, he reached out, and the ancestors, they turned their backs. Complete silence. They knew they'd been betrayed, and Ner'zhul, their chosen conduit, had been the instrument of that betrayal. Leading the Orcs into a pact with darkness, that silence from Oshu'gun, it was the ultimate condemnation. Cemented his shame. He saw the horrifying extent of what he'd unleashed.
That's tragic for Ner'zhul, but the story doesn't stop there, obviously, because there's an apprentice.
Right. The tragedy accelerates into pure malice here. As Ner'zhul rode home, just devastated, trying to figure out how to expose Kil'jaeden, he was being followed.
By Gul'dan.
By his own apprentice, Gul'dan, who shadowed him, listened in, learned everything about Kil'jaeden's deception, about Ner'zhul's realization.
And Gul'dan's reaction wasn't horror or loyalty to his master?
Not even close. Gul'dan instantly saw Ner'zhul as a liability, someone who had exposed the whole operation. There was no crisis of conscience.
So he went straight to Kil'jaeden.
Immediately. Informed Kil'jaeden about his master's change of heart. Cold, transactional calculation. Pure opportunism.
What did Kil'jaeden do to Ner'zhul then? Kill him?
You think so, right? Kil'jaeden was furious. But he chose something crueler. He didn't kill Ner'zhul. He stripped him of his power, his connection to the spirits, but forced him to remain.
To watch.
To watch. To witness all the corruption and destruction that he, Ner'zhul, had started. A living monument to his own failure.
That's dark. And Gul'dan just stepped into the void left by his master.
Stepped right in. And here's the key difference you see. Kil'jaeden needed elaborate deceptions, visions of dead wives playing on faith to turn Ner'zhul.
But Gul'dan
didn't need any of that.
Yeah.
All Gul'dan wanted and all Kil'jaeden had to offer was one simple thing.
Power.
The promise of unparalleled personal power. That's it. That's all it took. He was ready to lead his entire race into darkness for his own gain.
Okay, so Gul'dan takes over from Ner'zhul. He's got Kil'jaeden's backing. What's his first move?
Politics. Straight to political maneuvering. His first priority wasn't actually battle. It was establishing absolute control. Secret control over this growing Orcish coalition, which he was about to officially name the Horde.
How did he manage that? The clans had chieftains, traditions.
You needed a figurehead, a puppet, someone strong, maybe a bit easily flattered, who could take the public spotlight while he pulled the real strings.
Enter Blackhand.
Enter Blackhand, brutally strong leader of the Blackrock clan. Gul'dan appointed him the first war chief of this new horde.
And Blackhand thought he was actually in charge.
Oh, completely. Blackhand genuinely believed Gul'dan trusted him, that they were partners, that he was making the big decisions. The glory was his.
But the reality
Was totally different. Blackhand was a pawn. Gul'dan was the real power, operating entirely behind the scenes. He created a secret group called the Shadow Council.
Okay, I've heard of them. What exactly were they?
Think of it as a parallel government, made up of carefully chosen Orc warlocks, some chieftains, all loyal only to Gul'dan. They decided the Horde's real strategy, made sure every victory ultimately funneled more power and influence back to Gul'dan himself.
So Blackhand held the title, but Gul'dan held the leash.
Precisely. Blackhand got the glory and the danger, Gul'dan got the control.
All right, political structure secured. But there was a problem, wasn't there? With magic.
A huge strategic problem. The elements. The fundamental spirits of fire, water, earth, air, the things Orcish shamans drew power from. They recognized the injustice of this war against the Draenei.
So they just stopped responding.
They refused to cooperate, turned their backs, just like the ancestors did with Ner'zhul. The Orcs were fighting an unjust war, and the natural world itself rejected them. Their traditional, honorable source of magic was gone, cut off.
Which forces Gul'dan's hand. He needs an alternative.
And he has one ready. Provided by his patrons, the beautiful beings, as he called the Legion. This is the moment fel magic is introduced to the Orcs.
And fel magic is different, fundamentally different from shamanism.
Completely. This marks the real, irreversible turning point. Fel magic isn't about asking spirits for aid. It's chaotic, devastating energy straight from the burning Legion. And it's fueled by consuming life force, sacrifice.
It's inherently corrupting.
Fundamentally corrupting. So, the first Orc Warlocks are created. They start wielding this life-draining power against the Draenei. And the physical effects, they started almost immediately.
The green skin.
The green skin. Exposure to fel energy began to taint them, shifting their natural brown skin to that sickly, vivid green that became the hallmark of the Horde Orcs.
And they used this magic ruthlessly.
Utterly ruthlessly. The tactics were horrifying. They needed soldiers, fast. To bolster their numbers quickly, the warlocks used their life-draining powers in, well, the most obscene way imaginable.
What did they do?
They magically aged orc children, accelerated their growth into adults almost overnight, sacrificing their youth, their future, for immediate corrupted soldiers.
That's vile. There must have been resistance to this. Orcs who remember the old ways.
Oh, definitely. You can imagine the revulsion. Leaders like Draenei of the Frostwolf clan.
Yeah.
He was sickened by it. Absolutely sickened. He saw the dishonor Gul'dan was forcing on them.
But speaking out was dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. Gul'dan's control through the Shadow Council and Blackhand was absolute by this point. Going against the Horde meant immediate exile, and exile for a clan alone on a dying world meant almost certain death.
So even Draenei, he had to compromise.
It's one of the great tragedies. Even Draenei, a chieftain of profound honor, eventually allowed some of his own shamans to learn the dark arts. It was this agonizing pragmatic choice. Limited corruption, just enough to keep his people safe to avoid annihilation.
Wow. Okay, so they have fell magic, they have warlocks, they have this shaky unity under Blackhand and Gul'dan. What's next for consolidating power?
They needed one more edge to wipe out the remaining Draenei strongholds. And Gul'dan came up with an idea that on the surface sounds completely insane.
What was it?
Recruiting the ogres.
The ogres. But weren't orcs and ogres mortal enemies, like, for generations?
Exactly. Bitter enemies.
Yeah.
Constant skirmishes, deep-seated hatred. It seems like madness. But Gul'dan, likely through the Shadow Council whispering in Blackhand's ear, framed it differently. He convinced Blackhand that if he, the war chief, could pull off this diplomatic coup, broker an alliance with their ancient enemies, well, it would silence all doubters, cement his glory, make him legendary.
Playing on Blackhand's ego again.
Always. So Blackhand and the Blackrock clan ventured out, and they found these powerful, brutish ogres weren't exactly free agents. They were actually enslaved.
By who?
By these massive geological life forms called the Grand, serving as basically slave labor.
Okay, so Blackhand negotiates with enslaved ogres.
Bizarre, right? But he offered them a simple bargain. Food, weapons, freedom from their masters, and the clincher, endless opportunities to smash Draenei.
Simple, brutal, effective.
The ogres jumped at it. They provided this huge wave of raw physical force for the Horde. And, just as Gul'dan planned, it massively boosted Blackhand's prestige, which indirectly boosted Gul'dan's own control.
All right, military alliance secured, political control is absolute through the Shadow Council. Is there anything left for Gul'dan to do on Draenei before, bigger things?
One final, crucial step. To ensure the orcs could never, ever look back. Never return to the old ways. He knew some shamans, maybe even disgraced ones like Ner'zhul, might still try to contact the ancestors. Hope for a sign, a way out.
He couldn't risk the ancestors exposing him.
Exactly, couldn't tolerate that risk.
Yeah.
So he went back to Oshu'gun, the sacred mountain where Ner'zhul faced his shame.
And did what?
He had his warlocks perform a massive dark ritual. They sealed the mountain, encased it in powerful fell magic.
Trapping the spirits inside.
Effectively, yes. Preventing any orc from entering Oshu'gun or communicating with the ancestors ever again. It was the ultimate spiritual betrayal. He locked away their past, severed their connection to their heritage completely.
Leaving them reliant only on him and the Legion's power.
Solely reliant on the fell power he provided. The dark path was now permanently paved. No turning back.
So, with the elements gone, the ancestors silenced, fell and magic dominant, and ogres joining the ranks. The Draenei on Draenor didn't stand a chance.
Their fate was sealed. The remaining Draenei cities fell, one after another, rapidly, brutally. Even the huge sacred temple of Karabor.
Which eventually becomes the Black Temple, right?
The very same. Even that couldn't withstand the unified demon-infused horde. Shadath City was basically the last major holdout.
Was Kil'jaeden just watching all this unfold?
Oh, yeah. But there was one target he desperately wanted captured.
Yeah.
Prophet Velen, the Draenei leader.
Did they get him?
No. Velen, guided by those Nuru beings of light, always managed to stay one step ahead. He knew he had a bigger role to play later. But Kil'jaeden didn't know that. Before the final assault on Shattrath, Kil'jaeden decided it was time.
Time for what?
To finalize the deal. To give Orcish weapons one last terrible gift.
Okay, this sounds ominous.
It was. All the clans were summoned to this massive ritual assembly at a place called the Throne of Kil'jaeden. Fitting name.
Gul'dan organized this.
Orchestrated the whole thing. He even used some of his remaining figureheads, including the disgraced Ner'zhul, to help spread the call. Make it seem official.
Did Ner'zhul just go along with it? after everything.
He was broken, mostly. But maybe a tiny spark remained. Unbeknownst to Gul'dan, Ner'zhul managed to write a small coded message, smuggled it to Draenei,
Warning him.
specifically warning him, do not accept the gift that's about to be offered.
What was the gift?
It was monumental and chilling. Gul'dan stood before the assembled clans and presented what he called the Cup of Unity.
Just a symbolic gesture.
Not symbolic at all. This cup, and the pool it was drawn from, contained demon blood, poured earlier by the massive pit lord, Manaroth the Destroyer.
Manaroth himself was there?
Oh yes, Manaroth oversaw the whole ceremony, watching his new army seal their fate.
Drinking demon blood, what did it do?
Instant visceral power. A surge of strength, ferocity beyond anything they'd known. Physically, their eyes turned that searing, fiery red, a permanent mark.
But there was a catch. A huge catch.
The biggest catch. The exchange was clear, even if unspoken. By drinking, they became psychically enslaved to the will of the Burning Legion. Utterly bound. This was it, the point of no return for the Orcish race as a whole.
Did Ner'zhul's warning to Draenei even matter? Did anyone resist?
The temptation, it was overwhelming. The sheer power radiating from that blood, the collective frenzy, it was addictive. Grom Hellscream, chieftain of the Warsong clan, he was the first.
Grom, always eager for a fight.
The sources say the moment he drank, fire surged through him. He was consumed by a mad lust for killing. His act just opened the floodgates. Clan after clan rushed forward.
But not everyone.
Not everyone. Draenei, thanks to Ner'zhul's warning, stood firm, refused to drink. And his oldest friend, Orgrim Doomhammer, stood beside him.
So they stayed brown-skinned and kept their free will.
Yes, but their refusal instantly marked them. Outliers. Viewed with suspicion by the red-eyed, blood-crazed masses around them. They saved their souls, maybe, but isolated themselves within their own culture.
Okay, so the majority drink. They're superpowered, blood-crazed, enslaved. What happens to Shatrath?
It fell. Hard. The Orcs, completely frenzied, conquered the last major city. They believed they had finally done it. Eradicated the Draenei from Draenor.
And Kil'jaeden and Manaroth.
Watching the slaughter, they figured mission accomplished. The Orcs were fully corrupted, the Draenei supposedly wiped out, so they just left. Abandoned the dying planet and their new slave army to whatever fate awaited them.
Did they actually wipe out all the Draenei?
No. That's the twist. Prophet Velen, guided by the Naru, had managed to evacuate some of his people beforehand, hidden them away.
No.
But tragically, he left others behind.
Whoa.
To stage the massacre, to make the carnage look absolute, to fool the Legion into thinking the job was done so they would leave. Velen survived, his people survived, but at an unthinkable cost.
And the cost for the Orcs. They got their power, but Draenor.
Draenor was paying the price. The constant, massive use of foe magic, the demonic corruption needed to fuel the warlocks and the bloodlust. It took an irreversible toll.
We mentioned the greenskin, but the land itself.
Land was dying, rapidly turning into this dry, barren wasteland. Red, corrupted skies, polluted water, scarce food. Their whole way of life was shattered.
And the demon blood, did that just wear off?
Not at all. It was still pumping through their veins. With no more Draenei to fight, that aggression, that bloodlust, it needed an outlet. The Orcs started fighting each other, clan against clan.
So Gul'dan's grand promises of power were ringing pretty hollow by now.
Completely hollow. The Orcs were starving, killing each other, living on a dying world. Gul'dan, the master manipulator, was running out of excuses. His people were on the verge of self-destruction.
This sounds like a dead end for the Orcs and for the Legion's plans.
It almost was. But this is where the real big boss steps in. Sargeras, the ultimate leader of the entire Burning Legion.
Sargeras himself, why get involved now?
He saw Kil'jaeden's pawns were failing, about to wipe themselves out. He couldn't let this huge, corrupted army just go to waste. He needed to intervene directly, point them somewhere new.
And he already had a foothold somewhere else, didn't he? On Azeroth.
Exactly. Sargeras had been playing a very long game on Azeroth. We need to understand this. He had managed to infiltrate the body of Medivh.
The Guardian of Tirisfal. Azeroth's ultimate protector.
The ultimate protector. Chosen by the most powerful mages, specifically to defend Azeroth from the Legion. And Sargeras was inside him, wearing him like a suit, using him to secretly weaken the world, prepare it for invasion.
So Sargeras, through Medivh, reaches out to Gul'dan.
Correct. He contacts the desperate Gul'dan, likely psychically, and he paints this irresistible picture of Azeroth, a world ripe for the taking.
What did he promise?
Everything Draenor wasn't. Clean water, abundant food, forests, fertile land, and crucially, plenty of fresh opponents. The humans, Enough enemies to satisfy the Orcs' endless blood-fueled aggression.
Azeroth as salvation.
The only salvation. The promised land to escape their self-inflicted doom. Gul'dan was desperate. Sargeras needed his army moved. The timing was perfect.
So they start building the Dark Portal.
The Dark Portal. It was a massive undertaking. Gul'dan and his core warlocks, the remnants of the Shadow Council, started building the structure on the Draenei side. Simultaneously, Medivh, controlled by Sargeras, built the matching gateway on the Azeroth side.
How did they power something that immense, connecting two worlds?
The activation ritual. It's sealed with this detail that just underscores Gul'dan's utter depravity. The final connection, the immense magic required, was fueled by the sacrifice of a Draenei child.
Oh God, they found survivors just for that.
It seems so. Captured and brutally used for the ritual. That final, horrific act of malice opened the way, forged the path between Draenei and Azeroth, a connection that, well, remains a source of conflict even today.
So the portal opens, do the Orcs just flood through immediately?
Not quite a flood initially. They needed intelligence first, eyes and ears on this new world. And Gul'dan needed a specific kind of agent, a spy who could operate between worlds, report back directly, maybe even infiltrate human society.
And this leads us to Garona Halfrison.
Garona, one of the most tragic, complex figures in this whole saga. She was sent through, initially, to Medivh's tower, Karasan, to be that link.
What's her story? Why Halfrison?
Her origin is disturbing. Engineered by Gul'dan, he forced an Orc warrior and a captured Draenei woman to mate.
He created her.
Yes. And then subjected her to constant torture, conditioning, and implanted these powerful binding magic spells, designed specifically to ensure her total unwilling obedience to him and the Shadow Council.
So she was programmed.
Raised as the perfect assassin, the perfect informant. But Gul'dan was clever, cruel. He messed with her mind. Garona was half-orc, half-Draenei. But because of the trauma and spells, she actually believed she was half-orc, half-human.
Why human?
To make her fit in nowhere. To ensure she felt perpetually alienated, constantly struggling with her identity, making her easier to manipulate, perhaps. She felt allegiance to no one initially.
Until she met Medivh.
Until Medivh. Working alongside him in Karasan, she found something resembling trust, stability, maybe even affection. It got complicated. They even had a child together.
Wow, okay.
But the key thing for Gul'dan's plans later, at some point, Garona's loyalty genuinely started to shift. Away from the Horde, towards Medivh, maybe even towards the humans she was spying on. She stopped reporting back to Gul'dan consistently.
So Gul'dan's perfect spy wasn't so perfect. And Medivh himself, he wasn't fooling everyone, right?
No. His own apprentice, the young mage Khadgar, started getting suspicious. Medivh's behavior was erratic, dark. Khadgar eventually pieced it together. His master, the Guardian, was the one who brought the Orcs to Azeroth. He was Sargeras' pawn.
The ultimate betrayal. Azeroth's defender was its greatest threat.
Exactly. Khadgar knew he had to act. He joined forces with Garona despite her, questionable background, and Anduin Lothar, the supreme commander of Stormwind's armies.
The Lion of Azeroth.
The Lion himself. Together, the three of them launched this desperate assault against Medivh inside Karasan.
And they succeeded.
They did. Khadgar managed to fatally wound his former master. But as Medivh died, the spirit of Sargeras, tethered to him, started to manifest, to materialize into the physical world. That sounds bad.
Catastrophic. But Lothar was quick. He knew Sargeras couldn't be allowed to fully emerge. In that critical moment, he swung his sword and chopped off Medivh's head.
Brutal, but necessary.
Absolutely necessary. It severed Sargeras' anchor, stopped the Dark Titan from being reborn on Azeroth right then and there. The immediate Legion threat, the big boss, was neutralized.
But the Orcs were still there. The army was still loose.
Exactly. The Orcs were still pouring through the portal, and their invasion was gaining serious momentum, and they still had leaders.
Black Hand was still war chief. Gul'dan's Shadow Council was still pulling strings.
Right. Despite losing Medivh as their direct contact, the Horde marched on. King Lane of Stormwind, Lothar's king, believed they could hold the capital city.
But the Orcs needed to break their morale.
They needed a decisive blow, a strike at the heart of human leadership. And they had an asset perfectly positioned for it.
Garona.
Garona. After helping Khadgar and Lothar defeat Medivh, she'd earned trust. A place in the Stormwind court. She was often near King Lane.
But she wasn't loyal to the Horde anymore. Her conscious mind wasn't. But Gul'dan had planted those seeds years ago. Those binding spells. A final, monstrous contingency plan.
He could still control her, even from afar.
Not Gul'dan directly, perhaps, but his apprentice, cho'gal, the Ogre Magi leader, who was utterly loyal to Gul'dan. He activated the spell, the trigger phrase, the magical compulsion. It hit Garona instantly.
Forcing her to do what?
Forcing her, completely against her will, against every loyalty she developed, to assassinate King Lane.
Oh no, right there in the court.
Right there, she betrayed the trust she'd earned, murdered the king. Imagine the psychological torture of that moment, being forced to kill someone you respected, maybe even cared for. A perfect slave mechanism.
And the effect on Stormwind.
Devastating. The king falls, morale shatters, Stormwind couldn't hold, the city fell almost immediately after.
Leading to the Exodus.
The desperate flight by sea. Survivors fleeing north to the kingdom of Lordaeron to warn the other human nations. The First War was fully ignited, and thanks to Gul'dan's long-laid plans, the Horde looked unstoppable.
But even as the Horde is winning on the outside, things are falling apart internally, right? You mentioned Durotan and Doomhammer refusing the blood.
Exactly. While Stormwind burned, tensions within the Horde were reaching boiling point. Durotan, still in exile for speaking out against Gul'dan way back at the Dark Portal's creation, he couldn't stay silent any longer.
What did he do?
Exile had only confirmed his fears. He knew Gul'dan and the Shadow Council were leading them all to ruin. He sought out the one orc he knew, absolutely knew he could trust.
Orgrim Doomhammer.
Orgrim Doomhammer. Still technically Black Hand's second in command. Durotan, his wife Draka, and their infant son Thrall met Doomhammer secretly.
And Durotan told him everything.
Poured out the whole ugly truth. The initial deception of Ner'zhul, the secret deal with Manaroth and the demon blood, the fellow magic, the Shadow Council running everything. Gul'dan's ultimate plan to just use the orcs as Legion pawns. The whole sordid story.
How did Doomhammer take it? He was loyal to Blackhand, wasn't he?
Loyal to the war chief, yes. But Doomhammer valued honor above all. And this was Durotan telling him. His oldest friend, a chieftain who chose exile over corruption. Doomhammer believed him. He promised Durotan he'd stand with him, they'd expose Gul'dan, deal with the Shadow Council.
But Durotan was still exiled, still vulnerable.
Terribly vulnerable.
Yeah.
Doomhammer knew this. To ensure their safety on the journey back to their hidden camp, he assigned one of his own personal guards as an escort. An act of trust, of protection.
Let me guess. The guard wasn't loyal.
The guard was a traitor. Secretly on Gul'dan's payroll, the Shadow Council's reach was everywhere.
So an ambush.
An ambush. Gul'dan's assassins struck during the journey. They murdered Durotan, murdered Draka, murdered the traitorous escort, silenced the one orc who knew the full truth and was willing to act.
What about the baby? Thrall.
This is the chilling part. Pure Gul'dan cruelty. They didn't kill the infant. They left him alive, abandoned in the snows of Azeroth. So that Durotan would die. Knowing his line was broken, his legacy seemingly ended, his son left to the wilderness or slavery. Maximum psychological torment.
Doomhammer must have found out. What did he do?
He learned of the assassination, knew immediately it was Gul'dan's work, likely through the traitor guard. He didn't hesitate. His loyalty to Black Hand evaporated the moment his friend was murdered under his supposed protection.
He challenged Blackhand.
Challenged him for the title of war chief. Magora. Ritual combat. Doomhammer killed Black Hand, took the title, took the Horde.
And his first act as war chief. Go after the humans.
No. Internal purge. He knew the Shadow Council was the root of the ride. He hunted them down. Systematically. Murdered nearly every single member of Gul'dan's secret cabal, a brutal, bloody cleansing to try and restore some honor to the Horde.
Which brings up a huge question. If Doomhammer killed the entire Shadow Council, how did Gul'dan survive? He was the Shadow Council.
Incredible timing. Just sheer accidental luck, rooted in Gul'dan's own arrogance and actions.
Oh.
He was in a coma.
A coma.
Remember when he was psychically linked to Medivh? Trying to steer secrets just before Medivh died?
When Lothar chopped off Medivh's head.
Exactly. That psychic backlash, the shockwave of the Guardian's death, knocked Gul'dan completely out, plunged him into a deep magical coma. So while Doomhammer was busy purging the warlocks, Gul'dan was conveniently unavailable, sleeping through the massacre.
That's some luck, so he wakes up later.
He wakes up, finds his apprentice cho'gal nearby, maybe a few loyalists left, but his entire power structure gone. And Doomhammer finds him, ready to finish the job.
But Gul'dan talks his way out of it. How? Doomhammer hated him.
He did, despised him. But Gul'dan was, if nothing else, a master manipulator and incredibly persuasive when his life was on the line. He made a deal.
What could Gul'dan possibly offer Doomhammer?
Pragmatism. Battlefield necessity. Doomhammer hated warlocks, yes, but he was still fighting a war. The human kingdoms had powerful mages. Doomhammer admitted reluctantly he needed Gul'dan's dark magic to counter them. He needed the warlocks Gul'dan still controlled.
So a truce of convenience.
Exactly. And Gul'dan sweetened the deal. He didn't just offer existing warlocks. He promised Doomhammer something new, something to solve the Horde's troop shortages and counter the human knights and mages. Something devastating.
What was it?
The first Death Knights.
Oh, boy. How did he create those?
It was a fusion of horrors. Gul'dan took the corpses of fallen human knights, soldiers from Stormwind. Then, using dark magic, he imbued these desecrated bodies with the trapped souls of his own executed warlocks.
The ones Doomhammer had just killed.
The very same members of the Shadow Council. Their souls, twisted and vengeful, were forced into the dead bodies of their enemies, creating these undead, magic-wielding abominations.
Karen Gorfiend was one of them, right?
Karen Gorfiend, the first and maybe most infamous. Their creation was twisted genius. It gave Doomhammer a powerful new weapon, proved Gul'dan's temporary value, and bought Gul'dan crucial time.
Time for what? He wasn't actually loyal to Doomhammer?
Not for a second. He was playing his own game. Remember the knowledge he stole from Medivh's mind right before the coma?
Yeah.
It wasn't just random secrets. It was specific. It was the location of the tomb of Sargeras.
Sargeras' tomb. I thought Sargeras wasn't dead.
He wasn't, not really. The tomb held the avatar of Sargeras, the physical shell he'd used years ago when he fought Egwene, Medivh's mother.
Right, the previous guardian. She defeated the Avatar, didn't she?
She did. She locked its husk away in this tomb, sunk beneath the sea. But here's the twist Sargeras planned. His defeat was a trick. He used the moment his avatar died to secretly transfer a fragment of his spirit into Egwene herself.
Corrupting her.
Corrupting her, subtly, which eventually led to the corruption of her son, Medivh, before he was even born. It was all part of Sargeras' incredibly long game.
So what was in the tomb that Gul'dan wanted?
The Avatar's body contained an artifact, the Eye of Sargeras, a focus of immense demonic power. Gul'dan believed if he could seize that eye, he'd gain godlike power himself, surpass Kil'jaeden, surpass Sargeras, control everything. That was his real goal.
So creating Death Knights, helping Doomhammer, it was all just the distraction, buying time.
Buying time and resources. He kept proving his worth to Doomhammer, but always with a hidden agenda, like during the assault on the High Elven Kingdom of Quel'Thalas.
Yeah.
He convinced Doomhammer, who still deeply distrusted him, to let him experiment with some powerful runestones there. He used them to create the Altar of Storms.
And use that to make Ogre Magi.
Powerful two-headed ogre spellcasters. But here's the key. These Ogre Magi, they were loyal only to Gul'dan. Personally loyal.
And Doomhammer allowed this, even knowing Gul'dan.
He allowed it, because the Ogre Magi were effective in battle. It was pure pragmatism again, a fatal mistake.
Yeah.
Trusting his most hated enemy, believing he had him under control, just for a temporary battlefield advantage. He completely underestimated Gul'dan's treachery.
Which leads us to the final betrayal.
The final catastrophic betrayal, the act that arguably lost the war for the Horde. They had gathered everything, all their forces, for the final push, the massive siege of Lord Aaron capital city, the human stronghold. Victory was potentially within reach.
And Gul'dan,
along with cho'gal, and their two clans most loyal to them personally. The Storm Reaver and the Twilight's Hammer clans they just left, abandoned the siege, abandoned the Horde, broke ranks and sailed away.
Where did they go?
Following the directions Gul'dan had stolen from Medivh, towards the coordinates where the tomb of Sargeras lay hidden beneath the waves.
In the middle of the most important battle, that's insane self-interest.
That's ultimate treason, defied all military logic. When they reached the spot, Gul'dan and cho'gal used their combined magic, a huge ritual, to raise the tomb from the ocean depths. Imagine seeing that colossal dark structure rising from the sea. Pure, naked ambition made manifest.
What was Gul'dan thinking at this point? Did he think he'd just waltz in and grab the power?
Pure hubris. He was convinced he was unstoppable. He sent some forces inside the tomb with him, left others to guard the entrance. He was ranting, apparently, screaming at the demons he expected to find inside, calling them cowards, weaklings, destined to serve him.
Did he say anything else? Recorded last words?
His mindset is captured pretty well. Apparently, he yelled something like, "Sargeras, I will claim whatever's left of your power and bring this wretched world to its knees."
He thought he was taking charge.
He thought he was taking control, but he was walking straight into a trap left by Sargeras himself. The irony is just perfect.
What happened inside?
Ambush. Almost immediately. The tomb wasn't empty. It had guardians, demons left behind by Sargeras, precisely to deal with anyone foolish enough to try this.
So they attacked Gul'dan.
They swarmed him. His final moments. They say he was desperately scrawling runes on the tomb walls, trying to cast spells, trying to understand what went wrong. Describing his own agonizing end, he was torn apart by the very demons whose power he craved.
What a fitting end. Horrific, but fitting.
Driven by his own boundless greed, destroyed by the very power he sought.
What about the Horde back at Lordaeron and Doomhammer?
The fallout was immediate.
Yeah.
Doomhammer discovered the betrayal. Gul'dan and a significant portion of his forces just gone in the middle of the siege.
What did Doomhammer do? He couldn't just ignore that.
Yeah, he couldn't. Doomhammer was driven by honor, even warped Orcish honor. Such treason, especially from Gul'dan, could not stand. He made an agonizing choice.
He split his forces.
He split his forces, abandoned the siege of Lordaeron capital city, a battle they might have actually won, to pursue Gul'dan and his traitor clans, to bring them to justice. Honor before victory.
And that decision lost them the war.
It sealed their fate in the First War, arguably. Splitting the army weakened them critically. The humans rallied, pushed the remaining Horde back from the capital, eventually cornered them near Blackrock Mountain, led to the Horde's ultimate defeat, the capture of most Orcs, and the first closure of the Dark Portal.
Did Doomhammer catch Gul'dan?
Doomhammer's forces arrived at the Risen Tomb to find Gul'dan already dead inside, torn to pieces. They then proceeded to nearly wipe out the remaining Stormreaver and Twilight's Hammer forces waiting outside. Justice, Orcish style.
So Gul'dan's final act of greed didn't just kill him, it directly led to the Horde's defeat.
His ambition didn't just ruin the Orcs and doom Draenei. His final, selfish betrayal handed the human alliance the decisive victory, ensured the Orcs were defeated and imprisoned. The architect of ruin indeed.
The story doesn't quite end there, does it? Gul'dan's influence lingered.
That's the truly chilling part. His physical body was destroyed, yes. But his immense power, that potent fella energy, his cunning, his corruption, it didn't just dissipate, it coalesced, concentrated into his skull.
The skull of Gul'dan, the artifact.
The infamous skull of Gul'dan. This receptacle of dark energy became hugely important later.
How so?
The power in that skull alone was potent enough for Ner'zhul the very shaman. Gul'dan betrayed to use it years later to reopen the Dark Portal, leading to the second invasion of Azeroth.
Wow. So Gul'dan's legacy literally opened the door for more war.
Directly. And much later, centuries later, that same skull was found and used by Illidan Stormridge.
Illidan used it.
Consumed its power, gaining enough demonic strength to defeat the powerful Dreadlord Tichondrius. It's one of the most dangerous war-defining artifacts in Azeroth's history, still radiating Gul'dan's malice.
And doesn't it whisper? Don't people who hold it hear things?
That's the consistent story. Ner'zhul, the Dragon Deathwing, later on, Illidan, they all held it, and reportedly, the skull whispered to them, offered advice, promises of power, playing on their ambitions.
So is it just residual magic, or is some part of Gul'dan's consciousness, his manipulative nature, still in there, still trying to corrupt people even after death?
That's the truly provocative question, isn't it? When someone is so defined by malice and ambition, does their power just become static energy upon death? Or does a fragment of that will, that corrupting influence, persist, able to warp the minds of the powerful, even now?
It's a terrifying thought. So looking back at this whole deep dive, Gul'dan's story is really a masterclass in corruption.
Absolutely, a comprehensive study. How quickly an honorable society, like the Orcs on Draenei, can just fracture when greed replaces tradition. How one deal, one individual's ambition, can doom generations to slavery, war, and suffering.
The Legion didn't even need to conquer the Orcs directly.
Nope. They just needed to find the one Orc weak enough, ambitious enough to accept the devil's bargain. Gul'dan proved that the moment absolute personal power becomes your only goal, everything else, honor, community, tradition, life itself, becomes just fuel, a resource to be consumed.
And really is the ultimate cautionary tale.
It is. And that leaves you thinking, if that simple transactional promise of power was all Kil'jaeden needed to turn Gul'dan into this monstrous betrayer, what kind of promise, what level of temptation, what perceived greater good or personal gain, what would it take to make you betray everything you think you stand for?
That's a heavy question to end on. Where is that line between ambition and ruin for any of us?
Exactly. Something to mull over.